The Georgia Bulldogs have the #1 offensive line in the SEC. Now, those aren't my words. Those are the words of SEC analyst Cole Kublik, who knows offensive line play as well as anyone covering the conference or across college football. That guy knows what he's talking about. And on his YouTube page, make sure you go check that out. He broke down the top 5 offensive lines in the SEC heading into the 25 season, and he had Georgia #1, which was a little surprising to me as someone who's covered the team not only last year, but over the last 10 years. I've seen Georgia's offensive line play a lot better than they did last year, and I'm sure everyone watching this video would agree. However, they had a lot of injuries last year. It was basically musical chairs on the offensive line, guys playing different positions, guys playing injured basically all year long. I mean, it was a struggle, but injuries were a big reason why Georgia's offensive line took a step back. They were a veteran, experienced group. I thought they would be a lot better than what they were. But again, injuries happen. They happen to everyone, but they definitely happened to Georgia's offensive line last year. But Cole Kublik thinks that, hey, even with the injuries they had last year, and even with 3 returning starters, 4 if you want to count Xavier Truss, who's no longer with the team, they still have the #1 offensive line group in the country. I'm going to be breaking down some of his thoughts, some of his quotes, what I agree with, what I don't agree with, and why Georgia fans probably need to be a little more excited about Georgia's offensive line than they currently are. Because I know they took a step back last year. The run game took a step back last year. Gunnar Stockton got crushed against Notre Dame. And that loss was not on Gunnar Stockton. I feel like I have to say that a lot. A lot of people are still to this day saying, well, Georgia lost to Notre Dame because of the backup quarterback. No, Gunnar Stockton played better than the offensive line did against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. But that's a whole nother topic. But here's what Cole had to say about Georgia's offensive line. And he starts with the left tackle. He said, quote, injuries got in the way last year, but they'll be in a better spot this year of who their first 5 are. He said, Monroe Freeling at left tackle is a Neanderthal, which is a good thing. He wants to get after you, and he wants to punish you. Is he super clean technically with his hands and feet? No. But he has enough athleticism to make up for it, and I think you'll see some real growth from him this year. Now, he's going into year 3. So Monroe Freeling, former 5-star, lean, athletic, with a lot of length, that's the guy they wanted to end up at left tackle entering his 3rd year. And it looks like, according to Cole Kublik, that could be the case. Now, I still think you could see Ernest Green there, who started at left tackle previously, the last 2 years, really. He got banged up. They had to move Monroe Freeling there, and it wasn't always that great. I think this is a big chance for Stacy Searles to step up, teach him, or continue to teach him better technique with his hands, with his feet, because he is a really athletic guy who can continue to add more weight and mass. I think that will help him. But if he can continue to clean up some stuff and, get to those speedy edge rushers a little bit better, I think he could be in store for a really, really nice left tackle season. But he needs Stacy Searles to help get him there. So if you're Stacy, there's been a lot of heat on him, and we can talk about that in another video. He's working the recruiting trail hard, but he's got a really talented bunch. I know some guys left, right? 3 of them were drafted, so he's got new starters. There's still a lot of talent there, and if he can take Monroe Freeling and get the best out of him, Georgia should be pretty good at left tackle. Again, this is a former 5-star. You're expecting him at year 3, or entering year 3, to start really coming into his own and being the guy they recruited out of high school. But he has the potential to be very, very good. I think it, could be up to coaching at this point. But that's a left tackle to definitely keep your eye on. Micah Morris back at left guard. Michael Uini is there too. Juan Gaston is there at left guard. Let's start with Micah Morris. This is a guy who I think had to work on his practice habits in order to earn his playing time. He's entering his 5th year. He was in that 2021 recruiting class, and he's got the talent. He's young for his class, but he's patiently waited his turn. He is big. He is physical. I've always thought that he had the chance to be a really nice player and start at Georgia, but he wasn't as good, obviously, as Dylan Fairchild, who beat him out. So he's a guy who could surprise a lot of people. I know Kirby Smart said in the past, he's a good player. He had to earn the job, and he didn't. He got some opportunities, didn't win the job, had to kind of push through some struggles during practice. but he lost the job to Dylan Fairchild, and now it is his job to lose. But he's a guy with experience. He's played before. He's not some scrub who's just there, right? So he's a guy at left guard who, at his best, could be a really good option. He talked about Drew Bobo being back at center, which is huge. He said you get Drew Bobo back, but Jared Wilson was a massive loss. But Drew Bobo played over 200 snaps last year. He understands the offense. Is he as athletic or have as much power as Jared Wilson? No. But he said, I've seen him handle snaps and crush guys on the screen plays or in the screen game. He understands the position. And that's what you really want out of a center. And I know that there's a lot that comes with playing center at Georgia. Cedric Van Pran, maybe the best center that Georgia has ever had, right? Helped lead them to 2 national championships. Jared Wilson was a small step backwards, but Jared Wilson was still really good, and I think will be a starter in the NFL. Now you have Drew Bobo coming in, who maybe not, isn't as talented or as strong or as athletic or can run like Jared Wilson and get out there, get to the second level and help in those screen game. But that's something he can do, as Cole said. But he's a guy who knows what he's doing. He's smart. He understands the position. He can snap. He can help lead the offense. He has played with Gunnar Stockton for a while now. They were both, second string center, third string center, second string quarterback, third string quarterback. When, they played together. They know each other and they both know the offense. There's no doubt about that. Drew Bobo is a smart player who's got experience, again, over 200 snaps. He's played. So again, he's not some guy who's barely played and they're throwing him in there hoping for the best. He knows what he's doing, and that's what you want out of a center. Right guard, I think Daniel Calhoun, a second-year player, could take that spot. He was out this spring, but a guy that I've been talking about for a long, long time. I saw him in high school play at a really high level at Walton. He is big, he is massive, he's physical, and he will crush you into the dirt. He is a pancake machine, and he's got all the makings and the potential, and he's got the build to be a really nice starting right guard. Now, he's still young, just year 2, but they are really high on him. And I've seen enough of him at the high school level, and I've heard of his progress enough to where I think they could be really comfortable with him at that right guard spot, especially if he's healthy and continues to develop and continues to progress and fine-tune his body and his frame. But right now, there's a lot of people who have high expectations for him at the right guard spot. You also have Marcus Harrison there, who is just a big dude. That guy's just a big polar bear, 6'8", 320. That he is a mean physical guy. He was just a 3-star from New York, so his recruitment and his commitment and his signing kind of went under the radar. But that's a kid who can really play. But if I'm making a guess right now, Daniel Calhoun will be Georgia's right guard heading into the season. At right tackle, he said you've got Ernest Green there. And he said this is the Hail Mary. If Ernest Green can turn into the player he was 2 years ago and the player we saw a little bit of last year before he got hurt, this could be a massive, massive deal for Georgia's offensive line if they can get Ernest Green back to form. He said, quote, the Hail Mary is Ernest Green. I've seen great football from him. It's out there. The dominance is there. It's on film. The coaches want to prove that last year was an anomaly. If they stay healthy, they could be the best offensive line in the SEC. And I'll tell you what, I agree there with the coaches. They know that it wasn't good enough last year. And injuries were there, but injuries happen. That's why you have depth. That's why you have guys second and third string who can, provide quality depth for you and go in there and maybe not be a giant significant, setback, right? When one of your 5 gets hurt, you need to plug in a guy who's just as good, right? That's ideal. But Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, Stacey Searles, they're coaching with a chip on their shoulder, and they want the offensive line to be better because it was not up to the standard last year. That's just how it was. They've got to get back to playing to that standard and the offensive lines that we saw in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 when they were parts of the strength of this team. They were not a strength last year. And that's a group that needs to be a strength if Georgia's offense wants to get back to where they were. Now, they had injuries all across, the offense last year. They had trouble catching the football. It wasn't just on the offensive line, the step back, especially in the run game, but they've got quality backs. And if these new starters, right, Drew Bobo, Micah Morris, possibly Daniel Calhoun, mixed in with guys who have started before, Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling, this could be a group that really surprises some people. But I know Georgia fans are looking at the offensive line group and they're not super excited about it, right? They see Tate Radledge, multi-year starter, leave. They see Dylan Fairchild, multi-year starter, leave. Promising center, experienced guy Jared Wilson leave. And they saw the tackle play was just not great last year, especially towards the end of the season. But Cole Kublik, a guy who knows offensive line play, again, as well as anyone out there, he's out here saying earlier this month, and remember, go watch his YouTube channel. I want to give him all the credit. I'm just talking about his thoughts. He's the expert. I'm not an offensive line expert. I didn't play offensive line. I'm just sharing my thoughts on his comments.